Welcome to Smells Like Potential, the rewatch podcast you didn't know you needed. Colin steps out of La Cage and has a fantastic week, both on and off the field. Roy gets vulnerable in the press room after Isaac confronts a fan in the stands.
We get some fun moments in this episode too. I really appreciate that you called out Roy's vulnerability. I think that's the heart of the episode.
Mhm.
I really feel a connection to the lesson that he ends up teaching in the press room.
That would not be the lesson that Beard is trying to teach in the press room.
No, they had very different goals going in, clearly.
So I
He was
have to ask, who was your favorite classic rock guitarist? Now, I'm not saying best. We don't have time for that argument.
right.
I just want to know who your favorite classic rock guitarist is.
Well, I mean, I'm a child of the 80s. It's got to be Eddie Van Halen.
That hurts. That is not classic rock.
I know I'm aging myself by allowing it to be called classic rock. If you just listen to Eruption, man, come on. I would try to sing along with his guitar solos. They're so epic. Whenever he appeared outside of Van Halen, they had all agreed not to do separate projects. So he appeared as Edward Van Halen in Back to the Future. And he was also on, I think, Beat It for Michael Jackson. He played the solo there and reorganized the song for him. Thank you very much.
If we're talking about 80s references, I see your Eddie Van Halen and I raise you Prince.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I did open that door. I mean, he's extraordinary. And
So
people don't really give him the due that he
they
deserves. Yeah.
do not. But if we're talking about classic rock, hands down for me, my man, George Harrison.
Oh, yeah. Also underrated. But I do like Jimmy Page. I know that's against Beard's argument. The funniest part about this episode is that my son happened to walk through as I was rewatching it. And every time Beard opened his mouth, my son, who's a 60s, 70s rock purist, although I'm sure he would disagree with that classification, he has a different classification for himself. He said, yeah, no, that's fair. Totally. Oh, yeah. Every single time Beard said something. And then when the journalist would counter, he'd go, no, no, that's what everyone says, but that's not true. My son is Beard, is what I'm saying.
Well, and Rebecca couldn't think of anybody. She says
Yeah.
the guy from Cream. And I'm like, how do you forget the name Eric Clapton?
So one thing I was thinking about as I reflected on this episode is I feel like there's a number of times and characters where people take out anger on someone for a reason beyond the obvious, displaced, misplaced anger. We see it with Isaac a couple of times, and we see it with Rebecca about Roy. So it was an interesting through line for me that the writers wanted to teach a certain lesson in today's episode. So the first example I'll give it is that Roy skips the press conference that he was essentially assigned. Like, hey, Ted can't make it. We need you to do this. And he initially said no. Well, he said more than that, but he said no. And then he said, yeah, I'd love to. And then obviously gets himself out of it by asking Beard to cover it for him. We saw how that turned out. So she, I think, rightfully calls him in. She has a conversation with him as the owner, but I think it goes beyond an owner employee conversation when she starts talking about, is this your plans for life? Because now she's essentially hinting at how he's treated Keeley. You're just going to walk away from everything the second it isn't fun or easy. In the previous episode, she said something about she's going to go meet somebody that feels like they deserve her, which was a clear dig. So I think that she's been building towards this blow up towards him and was looking for a work related excuse to yell at him so that she could get some more of these jabs about how dare you hurt my best friend? How dare you not think you're worthy of her? In a weird way, it's a compliment because she clearly does think Roy is worthy of Keeley, but just lacks some of the confidence or whatever. So I thought it was really interesting that it was her misplaced anger that we were seeing.
Right. Well, a couple of episodes ago, Roy had said he wished he had stayed at Chelsea and just had fun.
Yeah.
So for Rebecca to call back and say the second it isn't fun or easy, I don't know how that sat with Roy. I mean, that was a direct reflection of his vulnerability.
Yeah.
I noticed she said, "Get out of your own way, man." So she's trying to snap him out of whatever funk he's in. But you believe that she ignored professional boundaries as his boss?
I think a little, yeah. I think he would have an argument for, "You're out of line. I'm sorry that I skipped the press conference. I won't do it again, but you have no right to step into my personal life in that way. I know she's your friend, but you've crossed the line."
Mhm.
He doesn't say that or say something like that, but I think he understands because there's a couple of other moments earlier where she says something that's clearly a dig beyond the day job, and he just takes it. And
And people quit managers, they don't quit jobs.
that's true. Yeah.
I think she crossed a line. She's going to lose him as a coach. Now, granted, I know he doesn't have a lot of job offers waiting. He can go back to being a pundit. I just didn't think it was fair of her to take that opportunity
Yeah.
to yell at him beyond, "I asked you to do something as your boss, and you didn't do it." And he said, "I'm sorry, won't happen again." He apologized right away.
Right
That
away.
should have been the end of the conversation,
Right.
and it wasn't. So we're looking at boundaries. Isaac definitely crossed one
Or
jumping into the stands,
or two or three boundaries. Yeah.
right? So the one that really stuck out to me is although he seems angry, ultimately we learn that he's just processing. And a question that he asks of Colin is, "What is it about me that made you think you couldn't tell me?" And I went, "Oh, no, don't do that. Don't center yourself in a conversation. This should have been about Colin the entire time. Yes, you are allowed to process. Your relationship with Colin has changed. You now have more information. He's still your best friend. But what is it about me that made you think you couldn't tell me is not the question to ask in that moment." So I was a little disappointed in hearing that question because I don't want it to be modeled for other people that might be living this experience.
Right.
Do not center yourself when somebody tells you something about their lives that they have been keeping secret.
And you linked it back to a previous episode when we said something similar about Roy. He made the Keeley situation with the video about him when he wanted to know who she made it for. So I think they're telling us this lesson twice. They're showing it with Roy and they're showing it with Isaac. And I give huge props to the character of Colin because he's been essentially now abused by his best friend for several days, clearly. He's kept calm in every incident.
Oh my gosh.
He's reapproached him multiple times saying, "Hey, let's go, Captain," or he's asked questions, and Isaac is just giving him a cold shoulder. The way that Isaac found out is a total invasion of privacy that's very upsetting. He took his phone physically,
Mhm.
and that's how he found out. So I think Colin here has every right to shut that door into that friendship, never talk to him again. So kudos to him for opening that door, literally,
Literally.
inviting him in afterwards and answering his goofball questions
Right.
with patience and not getting upset, as you pointed out, when he made it about him. What about me made you think you couldn't trust me? Because here's the other thing. Later in the conversation, Isaac answers the question. He says, "Well, I am terrible keeping secrets." And Colin's like, "Well, yeah, like
I lasted a
24
month
hours."
after you found out.
Yeah. So it is interesting just how resilient Colin is. I think it shows that he has a true appreciation for Isaac and he does not want to lose him as a friend.
Right.
And he's got resilience in deep. I credit certainly Colin, but I also credit a little bit of Dr. Sharon because I think she's helped him build that confidence with his mantra.
Right. So can we talk about Roy's speech?
Please, yes, it's the heart of this whole episode. We get a later press conference, and as a way to redeem himself, I think, in Rebecca's eyes, Roy asks Ted if he can cover the press conference, and he goes in and takes the questions from the press. And it's going to be a difficult one because of what Isaac did, but he takes it anyway. And he, I feel like, has learned from Ted in that the best way in this moment to approach a difficult situation is to tell a story. So he reaches
Mm.
back into his own professional career and tells a story that ultimately ends up with the lesson that none of us know what is going on in each other's lives, which is absolutely true. It's very easy to start making something about you when someone reacts badly, but they're probably going through something. We've all been in traffic where somebody makes a really weird, jerky move, but who knows what's going on? Maybe they're on the phone and they're really upset about the conversation. Maybe they're racing to the hospital. There's a poster I saw in an airport once, and it really stuck with me. It fits this theme. The poster said, "Everyone is going through something."
Mhm.
And I thought, wow, okay. So when I got on that next flight, somebody cut me off. Somebody took my spot where I was going to put my luggage. Somebody cut in front of me in the plane. I was like, you know what? Everybody's going through something. I'm not
Right.
going to take that personally. I'm just going to let that go. It's really a powerful message that we can use in the classroom as well. That when students act up, behave badly, it probably has nothing to do with you as the teacher, and they're dealing with something else.
Be
And
curious, not judgmental.
precisely, it fits so perfectly in with the message of the whole show. It's no surprise adults are just big kids. The adults in our lives, our coworkers, our spouses, our friends, oftentimes when they get into difficult situations, because we're friends or because we're so close, we presume, oh, it's something I did. No, probably not.
It was a very emotional speech, and seeing Roy take a page out of Ted's book and using it to express himself when normally he just would have said, "F no, let's do that." And he was able to transition out of Isaac's actions directly to, "You're right, we don't use Colin enough," and move on with the press conference.
Yeah,
So he's really grown in learning how to communicate both in his feelings and with the public. Maybe Rebecca's yelling at him made that change.
maybe. Yeah. And you're right. The very last part of his quote is next question. He says that they're also people and I give him love. It's just such a great speech. And then when he finishes what he needs to say, he says, next question. He's moving on.
Right? I said what I said.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of changing, is it the beginning of the end for Nate at West Ham? We saw him being nice to people.
But
He
he's
said
winning. How
hello
could,
to staff.
yeah, but everything's going so well. He's winning. He's got a girlfriend. Why would this be the beginning of the end at the evil empire that is West Ham?
Jade brings Nate lunch, and Rupert walks in, and he's trying to be smarmy, and
Yeah.
she is not falling for it. I love her for that. Nate says, "Well, Rupert is actually decent." And I thought, "Oh, so are you starting to see through it?"
I wonder if she's been able to pick up his falseness through the stories.
Right? But Nate seeing through Jade's eyes, how
Yep.
false he is. And then when Rupert comes back, he calls Jade Kate on purpose just to take a dig at Nate. So I
Yeah.
feel like on this rewatch, this was the beginning of the end.
I think you're onto something there. I think we're starting to see good in him. This is my Star Wars reference because it's from Return of the Jedi, and Luke says, "There's good in him. I felt it." And I think what we're supposed to see as the audience is that there's good in him. But I believe this is a genuine tactic. As soon as Rupert sees that someone is coming into Nate's life that he cares about, that's a threat to Rupert's sole leadership over him and dominion over him. So he's got to somehow get between them. And I
Mhm.
think he invites him to guys' night, which is not with just guys. Uh,
Y'all can't see the air quotes that are being handed out right
yeah,
now.
sorry. Because he wants to get something on him, right? If he does something inappropriate in that private room, only Rupert knows. Rupert will always have that over him. That's the end of the relationship with Jade. All he has to do is let slip something about last night at Bones and Honey, and Jade is gone. He's lost trust. So then he's back to number one, and only Rupert can control and guide him appropriately.
I really appreciate that Nate knew even walking in the room was going to be a problem, because I'm sure a lot of folks would go, "Well, this is the one time I have with my boss to have some drinks. Sure, sure, sure. I'll go into the private room and have a glass of champagne to network, to socialize, to keep Rupert in my good graces." But Nate recognized just going into that room was going to be so bad.
Yeah. Kudos to our man Nate, who's on the journey back. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow for our reaction to season 3, episode 10, International Break. And our outro quote: "The point is, Colin, we don't not care. We care very much. We care about who you are and what you must have been going through. Yeah? But hey, from now on, you don't have to go through it all by yourself."